An unsettling quiet has descended on our cities. Many predictions are now being made about what the office of the future will look like. It seems a new normal has come out of nowhere, without warning, but the change agents have been in the works for some time. In this film, we'll take a look at 4 variables: broadband, the commute, applications, and demographics. An at-home internet connection is something generally taken for granted. But mass broadband penetration has really only taken hold over the past 10 years. The following chart tracks this growth between 2000 and 2017 in Canada and the United States, showing just how steady that growth has been. During this period, both countries have experienced growth of approximately 40%. Agonizing commutes in large urban centers are a common driver of remote working. In this graphic, let's look at a sample of how commute times have risen. We'll compare Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Chicago. Due to the difficulty in getting uniform data, this shows different time frames but still tells a familiar story. All 3 cities have experienced increased commute times. Now, let's include New York and Toronto. Both cities' commute times have risen even more, but Toronto's increase stands out. A significant contributor to the viability of remote work has been the growth of productivity applications. Here we have identified 3 application categories. These are teams and tasks, collaboration, and virtual presence in media. We've taken a number of familiar applications and put them in different categories along with the year that they were introduced. Some of these applications straddle multiple categories. Perhaps the biggest driver of change is shifting demographics, whose impacts will be profound. In this chart, consider 5 generational cohorts: the greatest generation, the baby boomers, Gen X, the millennials, and Generation Z. Most of the greatest generation is now retired. Boomers and Gen X show high numbers and express a preference for traditional work patterns. But the preferences of millennials reveal entirely new work patterns. They are all about flexibility, whether it's how they work or where it happens. Today, decisions are made by the boomers and Gen X, but for how much longer? It's a very relevant question as an emerging generational cohort waits patiently in the wings. Let's examine demographic shifts since 2000. The compositions of generations is color-coded, and their percentage of workforce penetration is shown in the vertical axis. Notice how these compositions change over time. A few interesting items. Sometime between 2011 and 2012, Gen X overtook the baby boomers as the largest generational cohort. But their time at the top was fleeting because by 2016, Gen X was overtaken by the millennials. But the story doesn't end there. In this graph, the largest percentage occupied by any generation occurred in the year 2000, when the baby boomers comprised about 45% of the total U.S. workforce. Take a look at this new group, Generation Z, in the upper right-hand corner, who were born after 1996. In 2017, this group represented 5.5% of the total U.S. workforce, but according to Ernst & Young, by 2025, the millennials and Gen Z will constitute a staggering 75% of the workforce. It's plain to see tomorrow's workforce has to adjust accordingly. A moment ago, we identified 3 categories of productivity applications, which are shown on the screen. But a 4th one is emerging, which are apps developed to identify internal talent and referred to by some as internal talent marketplace apps. Companies such as Workday and Gloat are at the vanguard of this emerging category. In fact, Workday has made this a central part of its mission. Much of this development will take place between 2020 and 2025, just as a great generational shift unfolds. Social distancing is a reality and will affect the way offices are configured. The central office, a fixture for generations, will inevitably change from a single location to a network of places. But in the process of doing this, community needs to be maintained. Good productivity apps will play a key role, providing the glue to keep people connected, and thereby creating greater social cohesion. A strategic mix of robust productivity apps will go a long way in virtualizing a sense of community. These are uncertain times, but a bold new future awaits.